This is the third video on dosage calculations, and we're just going to explore some different types of problems that you may see. Now, in this one, remember that the dose and the have units have to be the same, and sometimes that's not going to occur. For example, in this one, the doctor ordered 1 gram, but what the pharmacy has on hand is 50 milligrams per 2 milliliters. So we have to make sure that these match. In order to solve the problem, you're first going to have to convert the grams into the milligrams. And we're going to do that on the next page. Our dose is 1 gram to 50 milligrams is 2 milliliters. Again, these have to be in the same. So we'll start out by changing grams into milligrams. It's normally easier to change the order into the halves, so I'll go ahead and do that. 1 gram, and we'll convert it into milligrams. Remember that 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So we know that 1 gram is equivalent to having 1,000 milligrams. Now, if you know that as a fact, you could just go ahead and do that without the conversion, but I wanted to show you the process. So the dose is 1,000 milligrams. What they have on hand is 50 milligrams, and it comes in 2 milliliter amounts. So if I set up the problem, I have 1,000 milligrams over 50 milligrams, and we're going to times that by 2 milliliters. So we'll start out by dividing. We've got 1,000 divided by 50, which would give me 200, and then times 2, so we'd end up with 400 milliliters. Now again, the unit is milliliters because the milligrams canceled, and the only unit you have left is the milliliters. And 2, see how the units match? There would have been a problem if you had left this in grams and this in milligrams. The units would not have canceled. So always make sure that these units are the same. Let's look at another example. Here, this one's in grains and this one's in milligrams. So I need to have them both in the same unit. So we're going to go ahead and convert. We'll go ahead and change our grains into milligrams. And if you recall the unit or the conversion between that, there's 60 milligrams in 1 grain I. So I need the grains to cancel. So I put my grain I on the bottom. I'll put my 60 milligrams on the top. So I have 1/8 times 60 to work out, which would be 60 divided by 8. And 60 divided by 8 would give me 7.5 milligrams. So the dose is 7.5 milligrams. What we have on hand is 7.5 milligrams, and the quantity per tablet means per 1 tablet. So if I set up my dosage formula, 7.5 milligrams is my dose. What I'll have on hand is 7.5 milligrams and times 1 tablet. Now, if you look at this one, you end up having 7.5 divided by 7.5, which is just 1 times 1. So the answer is 1 tablet. Now, if we look at this example, we have grams and milligrams. So again, these have to be in the same unit. I'm going to go ahead and change the order into the same unit as the have quantity. So I have 0.45 grams over 1. There are, in 1 gram, there is 1,000 milligrams. So I'm going to end up taking 0.45 times 1,000, which would give me 450 milligrams. Again, because the grams cancel. So that is my dose, 450 milligrams. Now what I have on hand, there are 300 milligrams, and it's per caplet. So 1 caplet will give you 300 milligrams. So setting up my problem, I'll put the dose on the top. I'll divide it by the have quantity, or the have amount, and then I'm going to multiply it by the quantity, which is 1 caplet. Now notice the milligrams cancel again, and I can divide 450 by 300, which would give me 1.5, and I'm going to multiply it times 1, so we get 1.5 caplet. Now, little word about caplets and tablets. You can either say 1 or 1/2. So you can have a whole one or a half of one. You cannot break it any further. So say if you got the answer of 1.49, you would still respond with 1.5 caplets. If this answer is in milliliters, you can break into tenths of a milliliter. So just kind of remember, if it's tablets, either round it to a whole number or to a half, like 2.5, 2, 3.5, 3, but do not do tenths. If it is milliliters, you can change 1.3 milliliters, 1.4 milliliters. That is possible. Now, some other examples to kind of show you, because once you know the dosage formula, you can do many different types of problems. There's a category called parenteral medications. These are medications that are not taken orally, for example, injections or inhalants. The dosage formula will still be worked the same. You'll just be working with different units. These tend to be, especially with the injections, in smaller units, and you'll tend to be in milliliters. So let's look at this one. We'll start out with the dose. The doctor ordered 2 milligrams. So we know that the dose is 2 milligrams. Now the strength is given right here. There is 10 milligrams per 1 milliliter. Now when we set this up, we're going to have the dose on the top, divide it by what's on hand, and notice that units do match, so I don't need to convert, and I'm going to times it by 1 milliliter. Now 2 divided by 10 is 0.2, and we're going to times that by 1, and that's going to give me 0.2 milliliters. It is fine because this is milliliters. You can do milliliters in tenths. You don't round it down to the nearest whole number or up to 0.5. So just kind of remember that if it's in liquid form, you can do tenths, but if it's tablets or caplets, you have to round either to the nearest whole number or the nearest 0.5. And here's another example. This one's a dosage by weight problem. It might make sense that for some medications, the larger that a patient is, the more medication they would have to have. And this is one of these examples. And this one, we have a medication where the doctor has ordered 8 milligrams per kilogram, and this means by patient. So a smaller patient, say if a patient weighs 10 milligrams, they would get 8 times 10 or 80 milligrams. But if you would have a larger patient, say a patient that weighed 50 kilograms, then they would get 8 times 50 or 400 milligrams of medication. So the medication or amount depends on the weight, which is in kilograms, of the patient. Now, just to remind you some of your medical terms, PO means by mouth, and this means every 12 hours. So this patient is given the medication every 12 hours. So our hint is the first thing we need to do is find actually how much medication this patient is supposed to take. This 8 does not mean they take 8 milligrams. They take 8 milligrams per their weight. Now here we say the patient takes 60 kilograms, so we're going to start with their weight. And we're going to see how much medication by using this amount here. We need kilograms to cancel, and this will tell me how many milligrams. So this drug is ordered for 8 milligrams per 1 kilogram. Now, the kilograms cancel, and if I do the math, 60 times 8 would be 480 milligrams. So the dose, this is the dose the patient needs to have, is 480 milligrams. Now, how does this medication come? Well, if I look here, this is the label. It comes in 250 milligrams per 5 milliliters. Setting up my problem, 480 milligrams is the dose, 250 milligrams is what's on hand, and times 5 milliliters. Now, doing the math, I can go ahead and divide 480 by 250, which is going to give me a 1.92, and I'll multiply that by 5, and it gives me the answer 9.6, and the unit would be milliliters. And again, this is okay to have a 0.6 because it's in a liquid quantity, it's in milliliters, so you're allowed to have tenths.